Hey, what's up guys, it's Texumer talking to you here, and in this video I want to tell you about which iPhone is ready to upgrade and which iPhone is still good to go. But are you ready to be upgraded to the iPhone 13, or do you have an iPhone that is still good? Tell me in the comments down below. But in this video I want to go deep on which iPhone is still usable and good and which iPhone is ready for an upgrade. But before I go that deep, roll the intro. First of all, if you own an iPhone like the iPhone 4 or even any of the 5s, which is the 5C or the 5S, please upgrade. These phones are old, they don't have any software support, and I don't think they're usable in 2021. So if you are still using one of these phones, what are you doing? It costs like $150 to get an iPhone 6s, at least an iPhone 6s, which is the bare minimum for me in 2021. And still by that, I have a video here talking about the iPhone 6s in 2021. I think that not as usable as you might think. The iPhone 6s is still pretty old for these times. It still gets software updates and still works very fine and runs almost everything, but I think the hardware is still outdated. The software may not be, but the hardware is definitely outdated, like the cameras and the display. So if you own an iPhone 6s and you have a little bit of money, I advise you to upgrade to the iPhone 13. I think the iPhone 13 would be a great jump for you. And I think it's the perfect jump to do it right now from the iPhone 6s to the iPhone 13. You got 6 years out of your phone, which is just incredible, and the iPhone 13 might be the best decision for you. Of course, if you own the iPhone 6s, you might want to go for the iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max, but if you're used to low quality phones, or if you're not a prosumer, the iPhone 13 is good enough, in my opinion. Good enough, it has everything you want to, good cameras, good display, almost the same as the iPhone 13 Pro. It might not have as bigger of camera sensors and might probably not have as good as telephoto and ultra-wide photo, and doesn't have any telephoto, but in terms of not having 120 Hz or always on display, that's something you might not notice if you're not a tech gear person. But if you own iPhone 6s, I strongly advise you to upgrade for the iPhone 13. Then we have the iPhone 7 and iPhone 7 Plus. These two phones were a minor upgrade when they were launched in 2016. If you think about it, these two phones are almost the same as the iPhone 6s. They feature the same design at the front and almost the same design at the back, with some differences. The iPhone 7 features a single camera array, which is bigger sensor than the iPhone 6 and takes much better photos. While the iPhone 7 Plus, though, features the first two cameras to be featured on iPhone. These two cameras enabled portrait mode, which was pretty cool, and the iPhone 7 was known by that. But it was also known by the fact that you don't have any headphone jack. While the iPhone 7 still gets any upgrades, I think that it's still a pretty usable phone. By featuring the A10 chip, it's still very powerful, and I think by today's standards, it's still very usable. If you want an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 7 Plus and the battery is not degraded, but you want a new phone, I totally agree with the fact that you should upgrade. You got 5 years out of your phone, which is pretty cool, but I think that the iPhone 7 is cool and all, but I don't think it matches the fact that the iPhone 13 would be just insane, and it's still a worthy upgrade to spend $1,000 on an iPhone, because you had your iPhone 7 for almost 5 years now, so I think it's a pretty good run for its money. Then we have the iPhone 8. The iPhone 8, as you know, was a phone that didn't improve a lot. It had a glass back, which added wireless charging, and then the cameras were considerably better than the iPhone 7, and the speakers were as good or even a little bit better than the iPhone 7 too. The display was the same, the design again the same, the build quality felt a little bit better because of the glass back, but if you're still using the iPhone 8, you might do not have the need to upgrade, but if you do, I still advise you not to look at the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max as I must upgrade, because I think that by having the iPhone 8, you still have the A11 chip, which is the same as the iPhone 10, and in my opinion, if you have the iPhone 10, by the way, you should not upgrade. It's still the same design. The squared off corners are a gimmick, in my opinion. They are different, they feel different, but if you're not a techie person, you won't notice after a week. And okay, the 120 Hz display, Touch ID not coming, but 120 Hz display, always on display, better display, which has XDR, more cameras, which is the ultra wide. I mean, that's all amazing upgrades. They're the same upgrades for the older iPhones, but I think that the iPhone 8 still holds its value pretty well. It's still a very fast phone. The cameras are still very good. If you have good lighting, the photos are still incredible. And I think that the iPhone 8 is still a good phone to have in 2021. And if you are not sure if you should upgrade, but you have an iPhone 8, let me tell you this. Ask yourself, do you like your phone? Are you a phone geared person and you want to have the best iPhone every year? Or are you a person that wants to buy an iPhone every other year and wants to have a good iPhone to take pictures to social media and have good video and run its iPhone pretty well, not very hot, the battery life lasting a good time? Then if you're a person like this, I'm telling you, upgrade for the iPhone 13 from the iPhone 8. But if you have the iPhone 10, you can still use it for one more year in my opinion and wait for the iPhone 14 or when you're ready to upgrade. I think that's the most important thing. But the iPhone 8, in my opinion, it's kind of a stretch. It's still usable, very usable, more usable than the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. But if you have an iPhone 10 from 2017, is that I'm advising you not to upgrade. Then, as I told you before, the iPhone 10 and now the iPhone XS. The iPhone XS, if you have an iPhone XS, don't upgrade. What are you doing? The iPhone XS is still an amazing phone. It's only 3 years old now, and it's still very fast. It has the same new design as the iPhone 13 will have. Round corners, which in my opinion are more comfortable. The size is amazing, like 5.8 inches on the display is pretty usable, and in my opinion it's more comfortable than the 6.1 inches. I think the 6.1 inches is still a little bit too big. I prefer these 5.8 inches for my hand. I can reach every corner of the display and it's more comfortable to use on these rounded corners. It has double camera array, which has a wide camera, which has this amazing smart HDR, and it has a telephoto lens, which is pretty good still. The only thing that I would say that if you want to upgrade from the iPhone XS to the iPhone 13, the only noticeable difference is, the night mode photos. I think the night mode photos are still amazing and try to keep me surprising every time I use my iPhone 12 Pro. And I think that this phone is still pretty bad at doing that because it didn't have any night mode support. But from now on, the iPhone 11, 11 Pro, 10R even, I don't advise you to upgrade from the iPhone XS, not even every other phone that comes out after it, because I think that these phones are still very, very, very usable. And in my opinion, if you have money and you don't want to spend more than $600 on an iPhone, I advise you to get an iPhone XS. I try to get an iPhone XS for $350. It's still an amazing deal. It has the A12 chip, which is just stupidly fast still, and the build quality is amazing. The design still feels very new, very timeless, and the phone still feels pretty fast. The cameras are still very good, the video is still amazing, and it features iOS 15 and runs it like butter every game, every single task you throw at it. So I think that the iPhone XS is still, in my opinion, an amazing phone, and you don't need to upgrade for the iPhone 13 or even the 13 Pro or Pro Max. But if you are that person that upgrades iPhone every year, I cannot convince you otherwise. But like I'm telling you, the iPhone XS, the iPhone 11, 10R, 11 Pro, 12 Pro, and especially 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, do not upgrade. This is a next year, so you won't notice any type of difference between these two phones. Maybe 120 Hz, a bigger battery, or always on display. They are not worth the upgrade, because although these features are new on iPhone, I don't think that they are good enough to win you over to buy iPhone 13 Pro. Because let's face it, 120 Hz LTPO display that can have an always-on mode, it's good, but only for prosumers or techie guys, because the normal people and normal consumers won't look at it and say, oh my god, I need that now. No, they will say, what is 120 Hz? Is it different? I don't notice any difference between this 160 Hz and 120 Hz display. And I don't like having an always-on display because I think it wastes battery, and I don't like the fact that you can show your notifications and stuff to other people. It's not private enough. So I don't think that these features are game-changing, although for myself they will be pretty cool, I must admit, but for everyday person they won't make any differences. And the Touch ID would be something that would convince a lot of people, but the rest I don't think it's enough to upgrade from the iPhone 12 Pro. But if you are from the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the differences even get shorter. While the iPhone 12 Pro and 13 Pro, the differences are still other than the 120 Hz and LTPO display and always on display, you will have a little bit bigger sensors which will enable better photography in low light and better stabilization, and you will have OIS, which is optical stabilization enabled by sensor shift stabilization on the iPhone 13 Pro. On the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you will already have that. The only differences between the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the iPhone 13 Pro Max are the fact that you will have 120 Hz LTPO display. So if that's the differences that you're looking for to buy an iPhone, pull the trigger. But in my opinion, those are not enough. And even though on the iPhone 13 Pro you'll have bigger batteries, which you might notice differences coming from the iPhone 12 Pro, because it will probably be a jump of 1 hour to 1 hour and a half. On the iPhone 12 Pro Max, the battery life is just stupidly good still. And if you have an even bigger battery, the differences will be, okay, you will reach the end of the day with a little bit better battery life. So you will have to charge it at night too, so it doesn't make any difference. And I think if you are an iPhone 12 Pro Max, just keep it. You are just a little bit stupid if you buy an iPhone 13 Pro Max. I will strongly advise you not to. But if you haven't bought any of those, the 12 Pro Max or the 13 Pro Max, and you are still very indecisive what you want to get, should you wait, should you pull the trigger now, I have a video here talking about the fact that you should wait for the iPhone 13 Pro Max right now. Do not buy the 12 Pro Max or even any of the iPhones from the lineup, because we are reaching iPhone season. But to conclude this video, I think I want to resume this video in two big ideas. The fact that if you have an iPhone older than the iPhone 8, I advise you to upgrade. Even if you have an iPhone 8, I advise you to upgrade. You still have good phones, some of them, like the iPhone 7 Plus, 8 Plus, 8, they are still very good, but it's time to upgrade. And if you upgrade, you will notice a lot of differences between these two phones, mainly the design and the user gestures and all of that. But the cameras will be very different too. If you own an iPhone older than the iPhone 8, like the iPhone 10 and upwards, like 10s, 10R, 11, 11 Pro, 11 Pro Max, 12, 12 Mini, 12 Pro, 12 Pro Max, do not buy the iPhone 13 Pro unless you have that itch to buy an iPhone every single year, or you are stuck on our year upgrade. So my opinion is this is my final opinion. If you own an iPhone 8 downwards, buy it if you want to. If you own an iPhone 10 and later, I do not advise you to buy it, because the differences won't be that huge. Maybe a bit of better camera, better low light performance if you are coming from an iPhone older than the iPhone 11. But I mean, those are things that it's not necessary to have. It's something that it's nice to have, it's not necessary. But what are your opinions on this matter? Comment them down below, and don't forget to leave a like on this video. I want really to know what's your opinion. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, please. And while you're there, subscribe and leave a like. This was Tex talking to you here. Bye.